BAIO family, I'm your host, Shabari Lemon. This is another edition of the BAIO News. In this video, we're going to be talking about how after COVID-19, what will Africa look in 2030 and 2063. Now, this was written back in 2020, but it still can be applied today as we're seeing with the Omicron variant, the different waves of COVID. And it was written by Banji Oyelaran Ayayinka. If I butcher the name, I apologize. I try to pronounce the names the best as I can and give people due respect. Before I dive into this article, it is blogs.afdb.org. You can get the information from there. And it's the AFDB stands for African Development Bank. So, before I begin, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you comment down below, tell us what you think. And of course, make sure you sign up to the website at afrikstan.org/register. So, he brings up the point that COVID-19 has devastated Africa like many places. It says that sub-Saharan Africa has lost 35 billion and 100 billion due to an output decline and steep falls in commodity prices and crash oil. And it says the pandemic has brutally exposed the hollowness of African economies on two fronts: the fragility and weakness of Africa's health and pharmaceutical sectors, and the lack of industrial capacities, and the two go together. It later says Africa is almost 100% dependent on imports for the supply of medicine. I want you guys to think about that for a second. Think about what he just said. Africa is almost 100% dependent on imports for the supplies of medicine in order to supply its needs. And this is unfortunate because it brings up later in the article, and I just want to get to it before I dive into other parts of the article. It talks about Bangladesh, and it says right here, how is it that Bangladesh, a country far poorer than many African countries, is able to manufacture 97% of all its drug demands, yet it's next door to India, a powerhouse of drug manufacturing? So think about that. Bangladesh is poorer than most African countries, and yet it's still able to manufacture its drugs and demands. Tells you something. So he brings it up to two major points. Well, three major, but I'm going to bring up the two major points. He says that one of the reasons why Africa has not developed is what they call the no industrialization policy. He brings that up, the no industrial policy. And it says the root of Africa's underdevelopment industrial and health sectors can be encapsulated in three ways. First, some African policymakers simply think that poor countries do not need to industrialize. To me, I don't know if that's the case, then policymakers need to get out of office because that's a very ignorant comment to say. This group believes that the no industrial policy advocates who engage in rhetoric that does not fit the facts. The histories of both Western society and contemporary lessons from East Asia run contrary to the stance. Why are they even in office? Like, that's my thing. They shouldn't even be getting an opinion. We shouldn't be taking them serious. They should be out of office, period. Then it says that clearly, governments have an important role to play in the nature and direction of industrialization. Progressive governments throughout history understand that the faster rate of growth in manufacturing, the faster the growth of the gross domestic product. An example would be China. China was once one of the poorest countries on earth. It was poorer than many African countries prior to 1980. And now it makes up 80% of the world's air conditioners, 70% of its mobile phones, and 60% of its shoes. And is the world leader in manufacturing and produces almost half the world's steel. And it says keyword making. Two, rich countries therefore become rich by manufacturing and exporting to others, including high quality goods and services. Poor African countries remain poor because they continue to produce raw materials for rich countries. For example, 70% of global trade in agriculture is semi-processed and processed products. Africa is largely absent in this market while the region remains an exporter of raw materials to Asia and the West. Once again, what are these African we gotta hold these African leaders to account. If you hear an African leader say that they need to be gone, period. We need to run candidates, they need to be gone. I better not hear a single African policy leader, politician say any of that. If they do, they need to be gone. Because they should not be nowhere near power because they're ignorant. They I question their credentials in school, what school they went to, and I question their intentions. And it says, lastly, African countries are repeatedly told they cannot compete on a scale economy as well as price and quality competitive because China will outcompete them. Doesn't make sense. If you put up the right structures, you will be fine. Once again, I don't understand where this is coming from. I don't understand where it's coming from. And you know what's crazy? He brought up another question. How did Vietnam, a population of 95 million, emerge from a brutal 20-year war and lifted more than 45 million people out of poverty between 2002 and 2018, and develop manufacturing base that spans textile, agriculture, furniture, plastics, paper, tourism, and telecommunications? Mind you, Vietnam was literally bombed to the Stone Age. I mean, more bombs were dropped on Vietnam than the entirety of World War II, and Vietnam is more developed than many African countries. Says a lot about African leaders, and Africans need to look at that and say, I'm embarrassed and I don't want that. That kind of behavior from a politician should not be tolerated. Like what happened in Ghana when the politician gave them rice. The people of Ghana should say, "Oh, since you're gonna pull that, you lost your election. Don't even bother showing up. You've already lost. You don't respect this. You've lost. You've lost, and if you respond or you try something, it's gonna be a problem." Okay. So then he says, how can Africa change this? He says, first, Africa needs strong regional coordination mechanisms to consolidate small, uncompetitive firms operating in small, atomistic market structures. He says, secondly, Africa needs to build back better institutions, strengthen weaker ones, and introduce the ones missing. And then third is one important institution that has been abruptly disrupted is the supply chain for medicines and food. And last, and a side note, he says, finally, development finance institutions such as the African Development Bank are mandated to and currently trying to fill gaps left behind by private financial institutions. There's an opportunity to Africa to rethink and re-engineer its future. And that's how far I'm going to go with this. This was written by Professor Banji Oyeleran Ayeyinka, and he's a senior special advisor on industrial relations to the president of the African Development Bank. And like I said, you can get this at blogs.afdb.org. Let me know what you guys think about this. I mean, it shows what we've been talking about here, the need for land infrastructure nation, the need to have leaders that are actually for the people and get the youth involved because obviously these leaders ain't got no interest. They don't care, and this just demonstrates a lot of it. So let me know what you guys think about this, and I'll see y'all again in the next video. Peace.